Hello, everyone, and welcome to CoachX Live. Good start, Jeff. From the Institute of Coaching, my name is Jeff Hull. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute of Coaching, and I am very excited to have my dear friend and colleague from Harvard Medical School here, Dr. Chris Palmer. And we are going to spend the next 30 minutes talking about his exciting new book called Brain Energy. So I want to welcome everyone from around the world. And before I introduce Chris and get started on the conversation, please take a minute to say hello in the chat box. We always like to hear where folks are from. We usually have people calling in and joining us from all over the world. So I will encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A in the comment section. We'll try to get to as many as we can. But the good news is that if we can't get to your question, it will be saved in the LinkedIn recording, and Chris and myself will try to get to any questions that we weren't able to discuss live. So with that, if you're not familiar with Dr. Chris Palmer, you will be. And after today, I think you'll be very excited. This is a wonderful new book that Chris has published in the last few weeks, directly related to his research in the area of metabolic brain health. So let me give you a little bit of his background. He is a very dear friend, as I said, of the Institute of Coaching. He's been our liaison for many years at McLean Hospital and at Harvard Medical School. But he's also the director of the Department of Postgraduate and Continuing Education at McLean Hospital and an assistant professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. For over 25 years, he's held administrative, educational, research, and clinical roles in psychiatry at Harvard. And he has been a pioneer in the use of medical ketogenic diets in the treatment of psychiatric disorders. He's conducted a lot of research in this area, treating patients, writing and speaking around the world on the topic, which led to what is included in his comprehensive new book, Brain Energy, a revolutionary breakthrough in understanding mental health and improving treatment for anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD, and many more. So we are really excited to have him here. This is really important timing for us at the Institute of Coaching, because many of you know that we recently released our new asynchronous course for coaches called Mental Health Literacy for Coaches. And what I'm excited about is the work here that Chris has produced is directly relevant, resonates, and is totally aligned with what we're trying to accomplish with educating coaches on the role that we can have in mitigating and alleviating mental disorders and mental health distress around the world, which, as we all know, is reaching epidemic proportions. So with that, I just want to say thank you, Chris, for taking the time to talk to us. We're really super excited to have you here.
Thank you, Jeff, for inviting me, and thank you all for joining the LinkedIn Live.
Yeah, so it's really great to see people from all over the world. If we scroll down through, you'll see there's folks from lots of different countries and cities, and so we will try to get to some of your questions. But before I do that, I'd love to ask you, Chris, to give a little background. This is kind of an unusual book because I know when I read it, it's fairly deep in the science, but also very accessible. So give us a little history. What prompted you to dive deep into this research? Because it's loaded with amazing research, and also to sort of come through to a place of a comprehensive new approach to mental health.
So as many people know, mental illnesses, mental disorders are a world crisis right now. They are increasing in prevalence. And it's not just anxiety and depression and stress, but also disorders like autism spectrum disorder has tripled in the last 20 years. Disorders like bipolar disorder have doubled, especially in youth. Wow. And these types of disorders are supposed to be genetic. They're not supposed to increase exponentially. And for those of you who don't know, I mean, I am a Harvard psychiatrist. I've been a clinician for 27 years. I use medication, psychotherapy, and other standard treatments, and I know they do work for some people,
Right.
and I'm a strong advocate for their use. But if you actually know anyone who's actually suffering from a mental disorder, or you look at the outcomes data for studies, the sad reality is that our treatments fail to work for far too many people, meaning that we at best reduce symptoms, but we do not restore complete health. We don't put disorders into full and lasting remission. And that is a major problem. And it's a leading problem in the world. Mental disorders are now the leading cause of disability on the planet. And depression, plain old simple depression, is now the leading cause of disability in the United States and throughout the world.
Wow.
And it's not because people aren't getting treatment, it's because our treatments are failing to work. And if you ask somebody why do we have such a problem? Why can't we do better? At the end of the day, it is because no one can answer a fairly simple question. What exactly causes mental illness?
Right.
Like, what causes these things? What causes chronic depression? What causes bipolar? What causes autism? And instead, we only know some of the factors involved. We know things like, the biopsychosocial model. We know neurotransmitters, hormones, trauma, stress, substance use, inflammation. All of these things seem to play a role. But again, if you ask somebody, well, how does it all fit together to result in mental illness? No one knows. And that's really where I was until 2016, when I had the good fortune to help one of my patients lose weight. This man had schizoaffective disorder, which is a cross between schizophrenia and bipolar disorder.
Right.
He had tried 17 different medications. None of them worked for his symptoms, which is par for the course. He'd gained massive amounts of weight. And the quick version is that I helped him lose weight using a ketogenic diet with no expectation that it would do anything for his symptoms. The shocking and upending thing that I saw transpire before me over the following 3 months was that his symptoms began to melt away. His chronic auditory hallucinations began going away, and his paranoid delusions began going away. He began to realize they weren't true and probably never had been. That man went on to lose 160 pounds and has kept it off to this day.
Wow.
But much more importantly, was able to do things he'd never been able to do. He was able to complete a certificate program, go out in public without being paranoid, perform improv, move out of his father's home for a while. And all of that certainly led me on using the ketogenic diet as a treatment. And for those of you who don't know, a lot of you have probably heard of the ketogenic diet as a weight loss diet or a fad diet or a dangerous diet, or, don't do that, keto. But in fact, the ketogenic diet is an epilepsy treatment. It's a 100-year-old evidence-based epilepsy treatment. And we use epilepsy treatments in psychiatry all the time. So I went on a deep dive into the science of that and promoting that and working with researchers around the world. But I didn't stop there, because what was flabbergasting me was that now I'm using this treatment in dozens of patients. I'm collaborating with researchers and clinicians from around the world, and we are seeing dozens and dozens of patients put their bipolar disorder, their schizophrenia, their chronic depression into full and lasting remission off all medications. And that is not supposed to happen. That the mental health field says that's impossible.
Right.
And that these are chronic genetic brain disorders, and that people have a life sentence of these disorders, and that they must take medications for the rest of their lives. And yeah, we know the meds don't work very well. And so all of that prompted me to do a very deep dive into the science and what the hell's happening here. Like, this is impossible. This cannot be happening.
Right.
I'm seeing miracle after miracle in front of my eyes. And when I finally did the deep dive into all the science and connected all of the dots, the soundbite conclusions I came to are that mental disorders, in fact, are metabolic disorders of the brain. And that once you understand that science, there is tremendous amounts of science and numerous lines of research, clinical, neuroscience, genetic, metabolic research, all of the neuroimaging studies we've been doing, if you put them all together, the conclusion is that mental disorders are metabolic disorders. Once you see that big picture, you can actually understand, you can better understand mental illness. And much more importantly and excitingly, you can actually deliver better, more effective treatments that come with a hope of long-term healing as opposed to just symptom reduction.
It's actually extraordinary. And I know, having read your book, that there is a lot of deep research that's been done in so many of the different areas that you're talking about. And I think it's to your credit that you sort of integrated it all together, because so many of them are sort of siloed. The neuroscience studies are siloed, the nutrition studies are siloed, you know, the psychiatric disorders are within the DSM world. And then there's coaches who are sort of want to stay away from things that are called therapy or too medically focused. And I know what I love about your work is you're saying that we have to take an integrated approach to all of these things, but you're not overly simplifying. And I think it's important for our audience and for you to take a few minutes to talk about it is a complex subject. It's a deep book. So talk a little bit. I know you know, it's probably hours that you could spend on it, but what exactly how do you articulate it briefly, what metabolic means in this context? Because you actually dive into mitochondria and the whole cellular structure. So tell us a little more about what you actually discovered.
So a lot of people think of metabolism as related to burning calories and related to weight, and that if you have a metabolic problem, then that means you're probably gaining weight, and or just overeating food, and otherwise you're metabolically fine. But the science and research actually says a very different message. And I think it's important that we take this comprehensive approach to what metabolism is. So metabolism is actually much more than burning calories, although it is burning calories and it absolutely affects our weight. Metabolism is fundamental to the function and structure of all of the cells in our bodies.
Right.
And when there are metabolic problems in a cell, it means those cells aren't going to function properly. And at the end of the day, the easiest way to put it is that when there are metabolic problems in your brain cells, it means those brain cells aren't going to function properly. And that can result in symptoms that we call mental illness. It can result in chronic unrelenting depression or anxiety or panic attacks for no reason, but all the way to manic episodes and all the way to hallucinations and delusions. When you take a broad overview of, well, what exactly causes metabolic dysfunction? Like, what are some of the root causes? The really exciting news about this research is that, number one, it's all of the known risk factors for mental illness and metabolic illness. So it ties together everything that we already know. This isn't reinventing anything. This is simply integrating and synthesizing what we already know. But again, much, much more importantly, it gives us new, deeper strategies to intervene. So some of the factors that play a role are diet, yes, but also exercise. Okay, diet and exercise, everybody's heard that. But sleep, stress levels, psychological stress impacts our metabolism. Everybody knows stress can cause heart attacks. Well, a heart attack is a metabolic problem. So yes, stress, psychological, can contribute to metabolic problems, but also mental problems. But even things that are completely beyond people's control. So infections or autoimmune disorders or other sources of inflammation. This is no one's fault. This work is not about blaming and shaming people. It's not about telling people that they're doing something wrong and that is the cause of their illness. Instead, it's about helping people understand what is causing the problem, and then helping people, empowering people to take control of their health, their overall health, and at the same time, their mental health. So lots of factors can play a role. Hormones, epigenetics, things that we do inherit from our parents, they do
Right.
play a role. But the great news is many of them are reversible. It is not hardwired into our genes. Instead, these are reversible things, often reversible through lifestyle.
But what about, for many, many, many years, those of us, myself as a psychologist training, and as a psychiatrist yourself, what about those of us who have viewed many of these things as trauma-based, like early childhood trauma that, we never get over, and years and years and years of psychotherapy and medication? I mean, you're not simply saying that take someone that's had that kind of experience and put them on the ketogenic diet and they're all of a sudden going to wake up healed.
No. So let me unpack a little bit of what you've said. So we know that trauma induces mental disorders, and it's across the board.
Right.
Yes, PTSD is one disorder, but trauma and adverse childhood experiences also cause depression, anxiety, personality disorders, substance use disorders, alcoholism, opioid addiction. But guess what else? Bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. People who have traumatic childhoods are more likely to develop those disorders as well.
Right.
So
Right.
trauma causes mental illness almost across the board. But what else does trauma cause? Trauma causes metabolic disorders as well. Trauma causes premature heart attacks and strokes and obesity and type 2 diabetes and premature mortality. And in fact, one study found that children who have 6 or more ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, lose on average 20 years of life compared to people who have no ACEs. So again, we see this connection between what we call metabolic and what we call mental.
Right.
And what I'm saying is that if psychotherapy works for someone with a trauma history, I'm all for it, 100%. Do psychotherapy, and if that is 100% effective for the person, problem solved. We've used an evidence-based treatment and it worked. Great. If a pill works, if you put somebody on Zoloft and that works for their PTSD, great. Problem solved. I'm all for it. I'm not here to replace the evidence-based treatments, but what I'm here to say is that if those evidence-based treatments are failing to work, like they do for the majority of people with PTSD, unfortunately,
Or
and all the other
temporarily work.
disorders, if they fail to work, if they're only working temporarily, and then you got to change pills, and then you got to do more psychotherapy, or then you got to focus on other symptoms, their OCD on top of it, or their comorbid depression, or their comorbid substance use, or whatever, if those strategies aren't working, we take a comprehensive metabolic approach, I believe we can have a greater chance of restoring that person's health. And that means we are going to be talking with that trauma patient. At the same time as we're delivering these evidence-based treatments, we are going to be talking to them about diet and exercise and sleep and stress reduction and reducing inflammation and all of the other things that play a role in metabolism in order to maximize the chances that they can get a full and lasting recovery.
Beautifully said. And I know that when you and I chatted just a few days ago, because I was just so moved by what you wrote about in the book, and I wanted to grab you for a few minutes before I had this dialogue with you. And I asked you specifically, what role do you see us coaches having as part of the treatment of this? So say, because I thought what you said was really profound.
So let me be clear and unequivocal. This is a call to action to coaches. Please, please, please help us. Help the world. We need you. Why? Because coaches have an invaluable skill set. They have a skill set to motivate and inspire people to make changes that are adaptive, that are helpful in their lives. And this cuts across all boards. Absolutely, health and wellness coaches are essential to this work. And so if any of you are health and wellness coaches, I specifically call you out in my book, and I'm asking you to participate in multidisciplinary treatment teams. So it's not that I'm saying that coaches can go out and treat schizophrenia on their own, because I'm not. Just like I'm not saying dietitians can go out. Like if a dietitian knows how to do the ketogenic diet, that does not qualify him or her to go out and treat schizophrenia as an independent person. Like,
Right.
but I want people to work together on healthcare teams, on multidisciplinary teams of people. So maybe a physician or prescriber, nurse practitioner, somebody who understands serious mental illness, if that's what we're talking about, and managing those medications, but maybe a psychotherapist, but also maybe a dietitian, if that's appropriate, maybe an exercise person, exercise coach, fitness trainer, somebody, health and wellness coach. The reality is, if any of you are health and wellness coaches, you are probably going to be the primary clinician here, because you get more frequent contact with the clients than I as a psychiatrist would get. And so you're going to be really pulling the weight of this treatment for these patients and helping them implement these treatments, day to day, week to week, and helping them understand, and how do you eat out with friends and stay on your diet? How do you motivate yourself to get to the gym when you wake up severely depressed and feeling like you just don't have the energy? How do you do all of these things that will eventually help you recover, even though these things are hard? Because these people are ill. These people are metabolically impaired. It's not their fault. They're not lazy. They're not undisciplined. They are metabolically impaired. And that means their brains and bodies don't have enough energy. And we need to be sympathetic and understanding of them, but we also need to offer hope and inspiration and education and encouragement and empowerment.
Well said. Yeah. And then what I really love about what you're pointing to is that just as the science that you write about in your book is coming from an integrated mindset, looking at all the different domains where research has been done to demonstrate the metabolic impacts of these deficits, you're also calling for the treatment to be an integrated approach. And so it's not a one size fits all. It's not just that we have to hand things over to the psychiatrist, we have to stay out of it as coaches. It's really a community, it's a support structure that you're looking for. And I think that's really, really crucial for us as coaches. It's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this course, so that not that we become psychotherapists, but that we become more aware of what these domains look like, so that we can be part of the solution, even that it may include a psychiatrist, it may include medication, it may include a lot of different components.
Absolutely. I am not a big fan of hierarchies when it comes to patient treatment teams. I'm really not. And unfortunately, the medical system is really big on hierarchies, and the physician's at the top and gets to dictate what the prescriptions are, and everybody else below is supposed to follow orders. That's not the way treatment in the real world works. That's not the way real human beings work. And I think we need integrated treatment teams where everybody is playing their own essential roles, where everybody on the team understands and respects what the others are doing, and they're all working together like a team, just like a baseball team or a basketball team. It's not single players going out to win the whole game for that team. It's everybody working together and understanding that different people on the team have different roles and different strengths and different talents and different trainings. And that's great. But there's no disrespect of the first baseman or the outfielder from the pitcher. They're all working together, and they're all playing essential roles. And as I said, I really believe this. If you're a coach and you're seeing your clients or having contact with your clients more than once a week, you are the primary team member. You're the one who needs to be filling in the other treatment team members. Like, hey, client is really struggling with X, Y, or Z. Can we adapt? Can we modify? What can we do? How can we help this person get over this hump? Because I'm trying these strategies and they're not working. Let's work together, put our heads together, and come up with a plan. And again, empower, educate, encourage, inspire in these clients, because I really believe that more than 50% of people with chronic mental disorders can, in fact, get better. Do I think I can cure everyone with mental illness? No, I'm not going to be that stupid or audacious to say, but I do think we can do so much better than what we are currently doing. And I think coaches are going to be an invaluable asset to this work.
Yeah, no, and I think reading your book is going to be core. Taking our course, reading your book, really getting to understand the space rather than trying to stay away from it or avoid it or feel like it's not a place for us to be engaged. So we only have a few minutes left, and a few people are asking questions related to, as a coach, where would I start? What are your tips for what should coaches be thinking about if they want to step into your world and they want to make a difference?
So I would reinforce what you just said, which is I would love, and it's not that I'm trying to sell my book. Go get it from the library for free if you want. I could care less about selling the book, but please read the book, because the book is groundbreaking and many clinicians don't know about this work. So the first step is to educate yourself, understand at least some of the science, understand the big picture model, because the big picture model is critically important. If people are abusing substances, that's going to play a role, and you might be the team member to identify that in a
Right.
patient or a client. That person may not tell the clinician, the psychiatrist or the psychotherapist, and you might be the one to figure out, whoa, guys, like, did you all know he's using all these other substances,
Right.
and that's interfering with the treatment plan? So learn the science. As you said, Institute of Coaching is offering a mental health literacy course. That could be a really great, powerful foundation. Once you've done those things, I would encourage you to seek out clinicians in your area, or clinicians that you network with. If you have a virtual practice, seek out clinicians, a mental health provider, preferably both, a psychotherapist and or a prescriber. Try to become part of a healthcare team where you can help begin delivering these treatments at scale. I can tell you now, the demand is overwhelming already. I am turning hundreds of people away right and left. The demand is overwhelming. You can fill your practice easily with this work if this is something you're interested in doing or willing to do. But learn how to do it, identify a core team, and then go. And you're probably going to be filled right away. I mean, I have people begging me for directories of clinicians who are willing to do this work. So if any of you are interested, I want to encourage you to, one easy free thing to do, go to brainenergy.com and sign up for our newsletter. We are going to be distributing newsletters with more information, all free, all accessible, helping people with trainings. But we're also hopefully going to be developing a clinician directory at some point, and we could add people to these directories so that people can better find you.
That's great. I hope that everyone that's on this call will pay attention to that, take your advice and read the book, take our course. I'm one of my visions as part of the Institute of Coaching has been for us as a profession to move beyond silos from, oh, I do leadership over here and I do health over here and I do this over here, career, because it's all integrated into one commitment to providing a service to support your client, your coachee, the person you're working with, to live their best life, right? To be fully living up to their potential, both physically, emotionally, mentally. And so I think as our profession becomes more integrated, it's exciting to hear that this kind of research demonstrates the value of integrating these approaches so that we all work together as a team. So I am super excited. I loved your book, and I'm really grateful that you took the time to be with us today. I know you're flying all over the world giving talks about this topic, but and it's exciting to see it's not a small thing for a psychiatrist like yourself to step out and speak truth to power in terms of wanting a team approach. I have over the years affiliations with Harvard and psychiatrists, and it's not always easy to try to speak to that place that we should be a team. There's people in the chat were mentioning that physicians are not always quick to want to be part of a collaborative team. They consider themselves the top of the hierarchy, as they say. So kudos to you for your courage, for your research, for the work you're doing. It's really going to make a huge difference.
Well, thank you. And I hope people will join us in fighting for this system change, because this current model is not working. It's plain and simple. Looking at physicians, psychiatrists to dole out pills, if that worked, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
If that worked, I wouldn't have written my book. Problem would be solved. But we have an ever-growing crisis. We need systemic changes. I want health and wellness coaches to be reimbursed adequately by insurance companies,
and
so
Margaret
that you
is
can
leading that effort. So we're on that.
Absolutely. So that you all can be compensated appropriately and make a decent living doing this vitally important work that will ultimately save the healthcare system so much money. When we restore people's health, when we help them go into remission and recover, they go off disability and become tax-paying citizens. So there is money to pay for this. But we need system change to make it happen.
Well, and I think you're at the vanguard, and I think you're courageous, and I'm just honored that you would take the time to speak with us and that we get to partner with you at the Institute. So I want to wish you the best with the book, with your talks, and I'm sure we will see you again. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're going to keep the chat so he can see, Dr. Palmer can see all the questions and your comments, and we'll keep this dialogue going. We're committed to it. So Chris, great seeing you. Travel safe. Have a wonderful holiday. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.